It was just past sundown when Hank's old pickup coughed its way down the gravel road near the railway tracks outside of town. He wasn't supposed to be there. He'd taken a detour, trying to avoid a traffic jam on the highway. But fate, it seemed, had a better plan. Hank was a humble mechanic, mid-50s, rough hands, grease under his nails, and a heart too big for the worn-down trailer he called home. Life hadn't been easy. He'd lost his wife to cancer 6 years ago, his shop barely scraped by, and most days, he worked until his back screamed. But he never stopped fixing things, broken cars, broken bikes, sometimes broken spirits. That evening, headlights caught something unusual by the tracks, a flash of color, a figure hunched in the cold. Hank slowed down. Sitting in the shadow of a rusted rail car was a woman in a torn coat, clutching 2 small children under each arm like life preservers in a storm. The twins, no older than 5, looked up with tired eyes and hollow cheeks. "You folks okay?" Hank asked, stepping out into the cold. The woman flinched. "We're fine. Please, just keep going." Hank could have. He had nothing to offer, no room, no money, barely enough food for himself. But something in the woman's voice made him pause. It wasn't fear. It was shame. "You got somewhere to go?" he asked gently. She didn't answer. "Hop in. Truck's warm." She hesitated, then nodded. The kids followed silently, holding tightly to her hands. Back at his trailer, Hank served them what little he had, some leftover chili and cornbread. The twins devoured it like it was Thanksgiving. He gave them his bed, choosing the old recliner for himself. He didn't sleep much that night, kept wondering who they were, where they came from, and what had driven them to hide by the tracks like ghosts. The next morning, she finally spoke. "My name's Laura. The kids are Jake and Mia. We came here from 3 states over. My husband died in a fire 6 months ago. We lost everything. I didn't know where else to go." Hank listened quietly. It was a story he'd heard before, different faces, same kind of pain. But then she said something that made his stomach twist. "I didn't tell you everything. I ran, because I was scared. Someone is looking for us. Someone dangerous." It turned out her late husband hadn't just been a factory worker, he'd been part of something darker. Before he died, he'd stolen documents exposing a criminal ring in his company tied to human trafficking. When he died, Laura became the next target. She'd been running ever since. Hank could have backed off. He had enough problems of his own. But instead, he picked up the phone and called an old friend, a retired cop who still had a few strings to pull. For the next week, the trailer became a safe house. Hank worked during the day, and by night, he helped Laura put together the evidence she'd been hiding, a USB drive wrapped in plastic, tucked inside the lining of her coat. The authorities moved fast once they had it. The trafficking ring was busted in 3 states, and Laura's name was cleared. She was offered a new identity, protection, and a chance to start over. But she didn't want to leave without saying goodbye. "You saved us," she said, eyes brimming. "You didn't even know us, and you saved us." Hank looked down at his calloused hands. "I just fixed what was in front of me. That's what I do." 3 months later, Hank opened his mailbox to find a letter. It was from Laura. She and the twins were safe, living in a small town up north. The kids were in school. She had a job at a library. And there was a note at the bottom, written in a child's scrawl. "Thank you for being our hero. Love, Jake and Mia." Hank smiled, really smiled, for the first time in years. In a world where people often pass each other by, where pain hides behind polite smiles and busy lives, kindness still matters. Sometimes the smallest act, a warm meal, a place to sleep, a ride in an old truck, can change the course of someone's life.